So friends, we have actually discussed in the initial part 1 introduction about the context and introduction about Vivekachūḍāmaṇi within the vast Vedic corpus, noting that it belongs to the Prakarana Granthas. And I will not revisit those details now. Those who have missed the first talk may refer to the recordings. As you may recall, the Prasthanatraya, that is what we said is the three pillars, the Brahma Sutra, the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita, and they are the foundation, the basis, and the three foundational pillars of Vedanta. Yet these texts are quite detailed, extensive, subtle, quite profound, and they're composed in Sanskrit and making them very challenging for most of the people to understand them directly. But the wise ones were aware of this challenge, and in order to bridge the gap, the great acharyas, the teachers, including Adi Shankaracharya himself, composed concise treatises that present the essential teachings in a very systematic and accessible manner. These works are collectively known as the Prakarana Granthas. And these Prakarana Granthas basically, as you can see on the bottom of the screen, are not that many, but they are very important texts, and they provide direct guidance in order to understand the Vedanta in a simpler manner. So next, if we see, we also will understand that these Prakarana Granthas are again, basically they address 6 key areas, and our book, which we are going to understand and discuss about, is part of this corpus, that is the Prakarana Granthas. Now, which are these 6 areas which are addressed by Prakarana Granthas? First is Jiva, which is also Jivatma, the divine monad. Next is Jagat, the illusionary manifested world. And then comes Ishvara, the Lord of the world. Also, we can think of it as the third logos. Then we have Bandha or Bandhana, which is bondage, the cycle of birth and death, or the what is the cause of bondage. Then we have Moksha, liberation, and then we have Sadhana, the method by which the jiva can come out of the bondage. So this may look similar like the 4 truths in the Buddhism world, but these are the areas again which are addressed. Further, these Prakarana Granthas, of which Vivekachūḍāmaṇi or the Crest-Jewel is a part, are classified based on certain sets of texts which are introductory, which are known as the Prathama Granthas, like Tattva Bodha and Atma Bodha and Lagu Vyakya Vritti and Drigdrishya Viveka. These are all very important texts. And then you have the purpose of this, which is focused on Shravana and Manana, that is to hear the text and to contemplate on it, or rather understand the deeper meaning at the first level. And then we have the intermediate text, which comprises of Panchadashi, Vakyavritti, and Updesha Shastri, and Sadhana Panchakam, and Aparokshanabhuti. Now, these are again focused on the idea of various prakriyas. So, these prakriyas, we'll see what they are, because when we study Vivekachūḍāmaṇi, we'll have to use this prakriyas. The next classification is the Uttara Granthas, the advanced text. Now, these are for students who have got a foundation in the previous set of texts, and when I say foundation, it's a strong foundation, and this set of text actually builds over it. So maybe because once we have completed this text, Crest-Jewel or Vivekachūḍāmaṇi, we in the future should look into these texts, out of which this Panchikarna is a very important text and a very profound text. Next we have the 6 foundational text identified, which are also known as the Sat Prakarana in Sanskrit. So Tattva Bodha, Atma Bodha, Vivekachūḍāmaṇi, Laghu Vakya, and Drigdrishya and Panchakarna. So even if you don't do all those, don't try to study or get a chance to do all those texts, at least it is said that these 6 need to be understood. The total summation of the knowledge under these 6 texts forms the 7th, and that will provide a very deeper insight into the profound text which Shankaracharya had provided commentary on, the Brahma Sutras and so on and so forth. Now coming back to the topic of prakriyas, which I mentioned a couple of slides back. Prakriyas means actually the model, the tool, the approach, because Vivekachūḍāmaṇi uses different tools or methodologies or approaches. So there is the Adhyaropa, Apavada Prakriya, and then Avecheda and Pratibimba and Srishti Drishti, Drishti Srishti, Panchikarna, Neti Neti, Avastatraya and Drigdrisha. So not to worry about these complicated words in Sanskrit, but this is just for an information. And then we have, for example, in our Bhagavad Gita, we use this diagram wherein we had the physical, astral, prana, kama, manas and all the koshas and sheets. So actually behind the scenes the same tools are being used. When we say I am not the physical, I am not the astral or the prana or the kama, I am the witness, we are saying neti neti prakriya. So the neti neti, not this, not this, not this kosha, not this buddhi, I am not this, that approach is used. And when we are saying that there is the light of Atman, which is basically shining, and the root cause of all the koshas and the sheets to be working properly, and the light when it shines in manas, that reflected light is known as jiva. So there is a relation between jiva and Atman. That is, we are saying, we are using the relationship between jiva and Brahma. That is Avicheda Prakriya. And then we have Pratibimba Prakriya, whereas we already said that the light of Atman is reflecting in my physical, that is why my physical is working. In astral, that is my astral is working and my senses are working and the prana is flowing and the kama is flowing. So that is the Pratibimba Prakriya. Same we had applied earlier also, and it will be used in Vivekachūḍāmaṇi again, that spirit and matter is one, and there are different grades of spirit and different grades of matter. Why different grades of spirit? Because that one spirit, one Atma, when it's reflected in different grades of matter, it seems like different grades of spirit. But actually there is only one Atman, which is the ultimate reality. And that one seems to become many. So the one becomes many, the one is reflected in many, the one is reflected in the many upadhis. That is the Pratibimba Prakriya. And the other method which we'll be using is the extension of Pratibimba Prakriya, that is the reflection which we just discussed now. So you have the Brahman, which is the absolute consciousness, and then there is the Upadhi of Maya, which is again an aspect of Devi Prakriti or Mula Prakriti. But when Brahman, the absolute, and when we say Brahman, think of Para Brahman, because it is the aspect of the most closest aspect of the unthinkable, unspeakable. When the light of that is reflected through the upadhi of Maya, we label it as, please note the term, we are labeling it as for our understanding as Ishvara. When the macrocosmic light is considered on the microcosmic level and reflected through the avidya upadhi in the sense all our sheets, because of the skandhas of hundreds of our previous births, it has been programmed in a deviant or wrong manner. What's happening is the light of Brahman, which is shining, is through the avidya upadhi because of these skandhas, and that is labeled as jiva. So the thinker in us, in one way, which says, I am the doer, this is my world, this is my story, and we associate ourselves with this body and this situation of world, is the jiva, is again a reflected light. And the other example is that about the light of the sun reflecting in a pot or a clay pot with water. So when it directly reflects, then you have the entire pot, which the surface of the water, which is reflected by that light directly. But when there is the cloud through which the sun is shining, that light is reflecting. So there are two different aspects which we will again associate in further study, how the one Atman is actually expressing itself by multiple kinds of reflections. Now, there is a concept in Vivekachūḍāmaṇi and all these texts which is very important and which is known as the Anubandha Chatushtaya. So, Anubandha Chatushtaya means the four foundational questions. So, because if you try to read a book, or if you try to look or research for something, the first question you may ask is, what is this particular grantha or book going to provide me? What is the purpose of it? At the end of me learning, reading this particular book or text, what do I get? So the Anubandha Chatushtaya actually answers these four foundational questions. Vishaya is the topic. It says what will be taught and who is the adhikari. Like now, let's say you do not know Sanskrit and you just pick up a Sanskrit book. Will you able to read? Most probably not. Similarly with other languages. So you need to know that language first. Now in the case of these texts, there are certain conditions, pre-qualifications, which each student should have. It is not about the language. We'll see what it's about. And if you do not have those pre-qualifications, then the study won't be worth it, in the sense that you will not derive maximum benefit. You may understand theoretically, but the whole purpose is to derive the benefit. And what is the benefit? That to come out of this deluded state. And then you have the prayojana, that we need to understand what is the end goal. And then we have the sambandha, that is which connects the Vishaya, the Adhikari and the Prayojana together and defines a particular tool, technique and method. We saw a few of these methods, but then the book itself initially needs to provide what all techniques it's going to use. So once the student knows these four aspects, then it becomes very clear in his or her mind that what they are getting into. In case of Vivekachūḍāmaṇi, when we answer these four aspects, we have the Vishaya or the subject matter, which relates to the discrimination between the real and the unreal, Nitya Anitya Viveka, the nature of the self, the Atma Swarupa, or the bondage and the liberation, and how we need to come out of bondage and get liberation, and the means to attain the liberation. Then Adhikari, who is the right person, who is fit, who will get the maximum benefit. In this context, one important thing which is mentioned is the idea of sadhana, chatushtaya and viveka and vairagya, along with the 6 qualities and the idea of a mumukshutva, the person who is completely detached and is reached a level where there is a lot of clarity in his mind. So what is the first sign of an adhikari? How do we really understand that? Do we really qualify? But even if we do not qualify, we need to, if we understand the qualification, we can then work towards it. So the first sign is a deep existential exhaustion with the transactional mode of living. So from childhood, we are conditioned into a simple formula. That is, to obtain something, we must do something. Action yields results. Efforts brings rewards. This is the only mechanism or grammar of life we know. But the infinite, the unthinkable, unspeakable, the unobjectifiable reality, uh, as the Mandukya Upanishad says, this is immutable, everlasting, unthinkable, unspeakable, uh, cannot be reached through action, because it is not an object situated somewhere in time and space. It is not a destination to be attained also, nor a concept to be grasped. This is very important for us to understand, because it is beyond all becoming or all sort of creation, because neither was it created, nor will it be destroyed, nor it is an object, nor we can think about it. So how do we approach? Because this is precisely what the Upanishads declare. So what the spiritual aspirant or the adhikari seeks in truth is the uncreate, and the uncreate cannot be produced by action. So you cannot do some action and achieve or get that uncreate. So when this insight dawns, not merely intellectually but as a deep inner clarity, then the seeker, the adhikari or the aspirant, is ready to approach a guru. Now, in our present context, the guru is none other than the teachings itself. The words of the masters, the Upanishads, and Shankaracharya's luminous commentaries that guide us at this stage, the first and most essential requirement now would be complete surrender. So, what exactly then would be complete surrender is we need to also understand, which we'll look into it later. Now, in this context, there is this shloka or the verse which is also provided from Mundaka Upanishads. So there are two Upanishads, Mandukya and Mundaka. We are talking of Mundaka. So the whole idea is that after examining the worlds, that is material temporary things, attained through action, the wise seeker should develop dispassion. Since the uncreate, infinite reality cannot be reached by actions that are themselves created and finite. Therefore, desiring the knowledge of that Brahman, he should approach a teacher with humility and readiness, one who is well versed in the scriptures and firmly established in the realization of Brahman. The qualities which are required further is viveka, vairagya, and you have samadhi, shataka, and the mumukshutva. So, important thing is that even before that, complete surrender is required. And what do we mean by complete surrender? So, karma yoga we have already seen, which is in short, performance of your duties without attachment to the action or to the results of action, and offering the results to the higher self. Atma Arpana is complete self-reliance, in the sense that come what may, positive, negative, up, down, happiness, sorrow, situations in our life, we are completely detached to that, and we think whatever happens in our life is the most appropriate karmically and for our learning, because this is a school of life and we are learning, and everybody is our teacher and every situation is teaching us. The moment we learn our lesson, that situation will never come back again. So with that self-reliance, reliance on the higher self, we are living our life. Sakshi, witness position. So we realize that we are none of our bodies and we are centered in the reality about ourselves, which is we are the Atman, we are none of the body. So we discussed the prakriya neti neti, not this, not this. That we need to apply. And then only one goal should be in our mind or at the back of our mind, to realize the Atma Tattva, that is the truth about Atman, that is the truth, the final Paramartha Satya, the final reality, the ultimate truth. And then we also need to focus our mind always on Parabrahm. So while during our day-to-day activities and chores, our mind is always focused on that one truth. The other qualifications which we saw, the four, are mentioned here, wherein viveka, discrimination between real and unreal, needs to be there. Which is that when we are living our life, when we are meeting people, we realize that behind those people, or the substratum of those people, whether they are nice to us or not nice to us, whatever the situation is that one reality, the Atman. The body is nothing but a kind of a shell, and behind that, every person is the Atman. That is permanent. This whole world, everything is temporary. All objects, inanimate objects, are also having that one Atman behind that. Otherwise, that object itself will not exist. So the permanent is the Atman, and everything else is temporary. That discrimination needs to slowly dawn in or arise in our mind. We'll not go into depth into this, but the idea is that we have already studied there is the lower form and the higher form. Higher is the Paravairagya. A Paravairagya is reached where we truly understand the temporary nature of everything in this universe, even so that we realize the thoughts which are arising in our minds are just temporary objects, and all our sheets and koshas are also temporary. And then we are able to selectively even allow certain thoughts to arise in our mind. And the other aspects are the sixfold inner wealth, which is known as the mastery of the mind, sama, mastery of the senses, dhamma, withdrawal, uparati, forbearance, titiksha, trust in the Guru and the Shastras, that is the text under consideration, and one-pointedness, that is samadhana. Finally, mumukshutva, intense desire for liberation. Such an intense desire that nothing else matters. A burning longing to be free from the bondage. Now, you would ask this question, if these are the pre-qualifications, then it would be very difficult for an ordinary human being to actually consider and read this book and try to understand it. The whole idea is that if and when an individual reaches these levels or achieve this level of qualification, then there is a written guarantee provided by Adi Shankaracharya in this book itself, which says that if you honestly, truly have these qualifications and you read the instructions in the book, then liberation is guaranteed. So the idea is that if you have these qualifications 100%, you read the instructions and then you achieve the goal. Now the roadmap of the book is such that we have all these 9 parts, and the details of these are provided on the Universal Theosophy website. You can look into that. There is a reference book also, and during the study we will proceed sequentially from part 1, verse 1, and so on and so forth, and we will sequentially proceed till the verse 581, the conclusion. Now we need to also understand that every being in this world longs for happiness. Each one desires to remain ever joyful, free from sorrow, free from bodily afflictions, untouched by the inner turmoil. At the heart of this longing lies an undeniable truth that every person cherishes themselves most deeply. And such self-love is impossible without the presence of happiness. Yet, due to ignorance of our own true nature, our own very being, which is the Atman, which is the Sat Chit Ananda, the existence, consciousness, bliss, we lose our way. Forgetting this innate fullness, we drift in the vast ocean of material existence, life after life, and we pursue fleeting pleasures, mistakenly believing that happiness lies in the acquisition of objects, experiences, enjoyments, and so on and so forth. So, in this confusion, we abandon the direct path to happiness. Instead of, we chase the shadows, unaware that what we seek is already our own essential nature, our own true nature. And after many lifetimes, after suffering a lot, running after the pleasures of life and not getting permanent happiness, we get tired. Or sometimes, due to our good karma, which we have generated over many lifetimes, we then perhaps in one life seriously ask these questions: who am I? Why am I suffering? And if we try to see, we also have this question: where have I come from? We would also come across this question: what is the purpose of life, of human birth? And further, we will see, will I succeed in finding the truth with my own efforts? If I read this book, or if I do my study, or if I try to research and live my life as per these instructions. And then we may ask, how to achieve this purpose of life? Further questions may arise: what do I need to do to achieve this purpose of life? Who can help me during this journey? Is there any guide? Is there any support? And how do I find my guru to find the answer, and who can support me? Whom can I approach? And then, what do I look for in a guru? So these are the thoughts which may arise in a spiritual aspirant, and all these are actually answered in this book. Now we'll focus on the first verse, the first shloka, which starts with the salutation to the Guru, which says: Sarva Vedānta Siddhanta Gocharam Tama Gocharam Govinda Paramanandam Sadagurum Pranotsmyaham. Wherein the Guru referred to here is the essence, the spiritual guide who leads the disciple along the path of self-realization. Now in Sanskrit, the word Guru is made of two parts: Gu, which means darkness, and Ru means the remover of darkness. Thus, Guru is a person who dispels the darkness of ignorance. Now later in verses 33 to 36, when we reach there, we will examine in detail who a Guru is, what are the qualifications of a true Guru. And later we'll also understand that how to identify the Guru. But in our situation, the Guru itself is the book, because this is the direct teaching from the mouth of Adi Shankaracharya. Now this verse itself admits two complementary interpretations. On one level, it can refer to the physical act of sort of prostration before a human guru, a finite embodiment of wisdom. On a deeper level, it can signify the inner spiritual salutation offered by the enlightened seeker to the supreme truth, the unknowable, the unthinkable. Now, when understood in this subtle sense, the word aham, I, no longer refers to the body, mind, or intellect. Instead, it points to the pure subject, the witnessing consciousness dissociated from all the limiting adjuncts. The ego center, or having turned inward, seeks its true identity and discovers that Govinda, because here the word Govinda is used, which is referring to the supreme reality, the ultimate reality, Paramartha Satya, which is beyond our senses, beyond our intellect. Now this recognition dawns through contemplation guided by the teaching and the scriptures. Again, in this light, the Guru is one's own self, the Atman. Thus, in this shloka, Adi Shankaracharya provides salutations here on two planes. One is to his physical Guru, because his physical Guru that time also was known as Govinda, and the second Govinda also means the Atman, the higher self, which is dwelling in all the beings. So, the real Guru is one's own self, not to be found outside. The real Guru is the one Atman, which is in everyone, and it is the one same Atman, which is the ultimate reality. And we are that, is what we need to understand. We have become deluded and we have forgotten our true self. In this context, we have also studied this, but good to always come back and remind ourselves. Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, 34 and 35 shlokas. Very important shloka. It says that seek this wisdom by doing service, by strong search, by questions, by humility. The wise who see the truth will communicate it to thee, and knowing which thou shalt never again fall into error. By this knowledge thou shalt see all things and creatures whatsoever in thyself, and then in me. Even if thou wert the greatest of all sinners, thou shalt be able to cross over all sins in the bark of spiritual knowledge. So there is so much hope. So even if one has committed hundreds and thousands of sins, still there is hope. And it all depends on how much effort each one of us puts in. In this context, we have the other shlokas, chapter 6, 47 and 14, wherein Lord Krishna says that, come what may, always keep the mind absorbed in me, focused on me, devoted to me. So when we say mind, it is the heart and the mind. And at the same time, you be vigilant and make sure that you are always bringing your mind again and again on me itself. That is the way to live the life. If you do so, rest all I will take care of, is the guidance which is provided. Now, when we do this complete surrender, which we have discussed previously, that is also known as the Atma Arpanam, or complete self-reliance, wherein the self is the higher self and the mind always focused on the higher self of Krishna as mentioned, then what happens? We are performing Karma Yoga, which will lead to Chitta Shuddhi, that is purification of the mind. It will also lead to Paraviragya. So these are practical instructions which are given in Vivekachūḍāmaṇi, and then we start understanding the difference between permanent and temporary. We start understanding the difference between self and non-self, and we then have complete idea of, or we have by degrees idea about the Atman or the Brahman, which is the substratum of everything. Second shloka of Vivekachūḍāmaṇi focuses on the fact that all living creatures, considered, the human birth is actually very rare. It's very difficult to achieve this human birth, and there is a lot of, if we may say, idea about millions and millions of years wherein the nature took time to build this human body or perfected this human body. And after millions and millions years, we know that at a certain stage, only then the manas was lit. When this manas was lit, only then the discrimination slowly arises in humanity about what is right action, what is wrong action, about ethics and about morals, about the purpose of life, and we had a thinking being. Now, that you have a perfect human body, physical, astral, pranic, manasic, all the sheets you have, which has evolved over millions and millions of years, and you have taken so many births to achieve perfection in this. If you do not fulfill the purpose of life, then this life is a complete waste. So here you have this amazing opportunity to fulfill the purpose of life, and you have this human birth. Do not waste that. This is the basic idea. Now, this is an important quote in this context, which is provided by the current Adi Shankaracharya, which is the Jagat Guru Shri Bharati Tirtha Mahaswamiji. It says, use human birth to attain mukti or liberation. Birth as a human being is not easy to attain. It is a fruit of enormous merits. A person who uses it for attaining liberation is alone wise. One does not know what one will be in the next birth. In this particular birth, we have got basic necessities plus much more. So when we say basic necessities, you have food, shelter, and other facilities in life. We never know in other life in which part of the world we may be born, what will be our situation, whether we will get education or not, whether we will have money or not, whether we will have food or not. We don't know. It's all our karma. So we should be very grateful and we should be very wise to make maximum use of this opportunity. Nothing worthwhile can be accomplished in any other birth except as a human being. Whatever is to be gained has to be done in this birth only. Hence, not a moment should be wasted. Thinking about God, keeping company of noble person, and observance of one's dharma or duty are the final steps to attain mukti or liberation. Indulgence in any pursuit other than this will be a waste of time, resulting in no worthwhile benefit. And further, the shloka says that this human birth, which is the boat obtained as a result of great merits to cross the dukkha sagar or the ocean of sorrow, should be properly used before it is ridden with holes. So anytime death can come, anytime disease can come, anytime some difficult situations in life can come. So do not waste time. Everybody must realize this truth, act accordingly, and attain the grace. So, we see in the secret doctrine also that it is the monad which neither progresses, neither evolves nor involves. And it is going through all these kingdoms, and the monad then reaches the human kingdom. In this human kingdom, then there is further evolution which is happening on triple level: monadic, intellectual, and physical. And these three systems has its own laws. They are governed by their own set of dhyanis or the logoi, and the microcosm and the macrocosm, if we see, are actually working together and they are interconnected, and the evolution is happening on both levels, and there's this triple evolution. So the important point to consider here is that the divine purpose of getting a human body is to become a Jivan Mukta. Jivan Mukta means while in the body, we need to get full realization of our true nature, get out of this sleep of deluded state caused by avidya or ignorance. And we need to become a gunatita, that is, we need to rise above these gunas, and we need to become a sthita prajna, that means we have reached that stage where we are having all the paramitas in us, we are above the gunas, and we are one in thought, speech, and action with the higher self. And we need to become a Atma Jnani, that is the knower of the Atman, the knower of the truth. That is the purpose of the human birth. Human birth burning desire of liberation, the capacity to surrender completely. These three things are rare indeed. Wherever they are found, they are only due to Lord's grace. So this is the third shloka. And Adi Shankaracharya says that these three things, that is, once you have achieved a human birth, then in you naturally, not by any other external means, but deep down in your heart, arising the final burning desire of liberation, and you completely surrendering yourself to the higher self and working towards it. This is very rare. This generally doesn't happen. In this context, in Bhagavad Gita, we see in chapter 7, shloka 3, amongst thousands of persons, hardly one strives for perfection. And amongst those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth, is what Lord Krishna says. And then we also see in the fourth shloka of Vivekachūḍāmaṇi, wherein it said that, is there a man who, having somehow gained a human embodiment and also a complete knowledge of scriptures, foolish enough not to strive hard for self-realization? This is verily like committing suicide. I mean, you have everything. You have this human body, you have the means to survive or live in this world comfortably or otherwise. You have the best opportunity, but you are so deluded, you are so ignorant that you are wasting your life. This is equal to committing suicide, is what is mentioned here. The fifth shloka says, is there a greater fool than the man who, having got the rare chance of human birth and thereto the good human qualities of head and heart, falls short in his efforts to rediscover himself? So this is a continuation of the previous shloka. In the same lines, Adi Shankaracharya is providing guidance. And then we have the sixth shloka, which says, let the erudite scholars quote all the scriptures. Let gods be invoked through sacrifices. Let elaborate rituals be performed. Let personal gods be propitiated. Yet, without the experience of one's identity with the self, there shall be no liberation for the individual, not even in the lifetime of 100 Brahmas put together. So this is a very important shloka, because it is not by doing some ritual practices or by reading 100 books or by attending 100 meetings or by discussing or by sort of getting into some workshops is that you will know the truth. The truth is known by contemplating on these seed thoughts which are provided, living your life in direct accordance and in harmony with these instructions and guidance which is provided, and practically living and experiencing and working towards it 24/7. So the key word is 24/7, wherein you are always continuously putting your heart and mind, and your entire life is dedicated and devoted to the cause. Only then you will be successful. Now the experience part is also related to realization, because the example which I generally share is, let's say there is a person who has never seen the moon or the night time. He, let's say, lives in a cave, and another person provides all the information about the moon, the phases of the moon, how the moon surface looks like, how the no moon looks like, how the full moon looks like, how beautiful the light of the moon is. Theoretically, that person living in the cave will understand everything, perhaps, but unless and until he comes out of the cave and sees the moon firsthand and the different phases of the moon and the light of the moon and the no moon and the full moon, he will not appreciate or realize it 100%. So the scripture says that once You have this human frame, make best use of it, the opportunity provided. You never know in the future life it will be there or not there. Then you understand the teachings completely. Then you practically apply it. First hand realization is what you need. That is when you will realize your identity with the self and you will be liberated, because in fact you already are liberated. It's only the avidya, the delusion, which is stopping you. Friends, with this we will conclude today's section, and before we conclude and go on to question and answers, we will have a small chant here. Om Sarve Sham Sarve Bhavantu Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschat Dukkha Bhag Bhavet Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. Om Gurubhyo Namah Hari Om. Thank you, friends.